Well, hello there, everybody. Happy Friday. This January 31st, last day of the first month of the new decade. Edward Milewski is here with me today. Edward the Molester. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That sends a message.
That sends a message. It's
So the markets are roiling.
Markets are freaking, a bit of a corrective move today in the S&P, but as Dan, the man McDermott, will tell us during his segment, it's all part and parcel of the much required corrective phase of the technical indicators in the marketplace. I want to say hello and thank you to all of our regular viewers here. I really appreciate the fact that you guys actually still tune in on regular occasions, and we are grateful for that, and we wish we could do more shows, but there's just not enough content being generated. None of the cannabis companies, almost none of the cannabis companies want to be our guests anymore.
Well, you know what? Look at MedMen guy, CEO. He's gone.
He's gone?
Yeah, they announced that today. Yeah, he's the Bierman.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Adam Bierman's got the boot? I thought, well, see, they have a super voting structure and that couldn't even save him.
He had to give up all his super voting shares too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of interesting.
That's a bit of a pain in the arse.
Arse, I'll say.
Arse.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. So then, did the stock go up when he got the boot?
You know what? Probably not. I haven't looked, but let's take a look.
Yeah, why don't we do that? There's a chart we'll start with.
All right. So let's take a look here, and so this coronavirus thing. I mean, you know how I remember the name?
I think of the beer. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's because of the beer.
But you didn't like Corona the beer, as I recall.
I know it makes me gassy.
Makes you gassy. More gassier than you are normally? Because that's disconcerting.
Yeah.
Huh. And so that's the main impact. That's the main driver of the negativity in the S&P.
Yeah.
And the Pilots Union of American Airlines is threatening not to fly to China anymore. That has a direct and clear and present danger, as it were, to markets at this point. So today we've got Dan McDermott from the ChartGuys.com is going to join us and give us his 2 cents worth on the S&P and the corrective phase that the market finds itself in today. A new guest, Lance Ippolito from the Future of Wealth, is going to join us. He is a options trader from down south, and he's going to give us some ideas about how to trade the FANG stocks. Then Morgan Fox joins us from the National Institute of Cannabis Association, and we're going to talk to him about their recently released policy statement on vaping and what the impacts, what the threats, risks, opportunities are. And then Clint Sharples will be here from Heritage Cannabis. He's going to give us an update on that company's fantastic progress. And then Dan Mitri will be here for the New Wave Esports update as per usual every Friday. Now, Ed, tell me about what you see in the S&P 500.
Well, it took out the lows of Monday when we came back, and they're talking about this and talking about that, and it looks like it's rolling over. On the other hand, you know what? This is usually a setup for the thing to go higher when things get sort of laid out a bit.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we're at the bottom and we're moving higher. Quite frankly, I'm not sure. I got a sense that, we just had Microsoft report record earnings. We just had Amazon report record earnings. We just had Apple report record. You know what?
There's a theme here.
There's a theme here.
I also read that MasterCard and Visa could be the next in line to become trillion-dollar companies.
You know, I saw Visa report 3 or 6 billion in revenue, and they made 3 billion in profit. Like, this seems like the business we should be getting into.
Amazon.
Credit cards.
Credit cards.
I use them. I wish I could create them.
Right. Cool. Well, so the coronavirus is clearly the element of the market today.
Big time.
But what about gold?
Gold is, you know, close to 1,600. It hasn't reached the number. And you notice how nobody's talking about Iran anymore?
No.
Not a word.
But look at gold is up to 1588 today. I'm looking at a gold chart on my computer here.
There you go.
And,
there you go.
You know, so good strong day for gold. Started the day down here at, what was it, 1578, and added $10 today. So just
I think gold's going higher.
Well, I think gold has to go higher because we certainly know that neither China nor Europe nor the Fed can afford to stop printing money, because to do so would be to catalyze a market swoon of biblical proportions. And this is the interesting thing about markets now. It's like they're completely false.
You know, you talk about, you know, interest rates drop dramatically. Oil dropped dramatically. Copper's dropped dramatically. Like, gold's going up. Like, what the F is going on?
Let's ask Dan McDermott, shall we?
Let's ask him.
ChartingManDan from thechartguys.com joins me now. Dan, welcome back.
Glad to be back, James. Thanks.
Dan, what's the main theme of the market for you today?
Well, we're watching the price action over the headlines. So we know that there's a lot of talk about this virus going around, a little bit of fear of economic slowdown. I always care more about what the price is doing than I do about what the headlines are saying. But at this point, today, as we speak right now, the S&P 500 is breaking a key short-term support level, which is, in my opinion, going to open the door wide open for weekend narrative of more fear headlines and further consolidation in the markets to be expected in the short term. And that's going to have an impact on the marijuana sector as well in the short term.
Yeah, you bet. So what would you say is the next support level on the downside if it does break through the current one that you're looking at?
Well, the S&P 500 right now is testing the lowest price that we saw on the initial, we'll call it the virus dump, that we saw over the last week or so. So once it breaks that level, it's, again, just right back to that fear narrative, and I'll show you on the chart here in just a second the next key levels that we're going to be looking at. The weekly uptrend remains the most important thing for me. When the weekly uptrend is lost, that's when everything shifts for me. If we're in weekly uptrends in the broader market, it's a buy the dip mindset. Lose the weekly uptrends, then we are looking at a bit more prolonged downside and a bit more patience, and the bears having their first real follow through that we've seen in a significant amount of time.
Sure. So do you think this narrative is being driven almost exclusively by the coronavirus? I mean, there's really zero risk of, sort of any price action as a result of any impeachment action, because that's kind of a done deal already. It's going nowhere, a nothing burger, as people like to say. So is this exclusively coronavirus driven, in your opinion?
Yep, it's always the unknowns. Someone can look to Brexit, but Brexit's known at this point. We have the impeachment. We know the probabilities, and the probabilities are not likely that 2/3 of the Senate are going to do anything. So it's the unknown and the inability to price in probabilities. Well, what if it does get significantly worse? That is where the market is seeing its fear right now, and that is what we're going to be watching. Again, the headlines. For me, it's I look at the chart and I say, well, we're extremely overextended. Consolidation is due. And this headline could just be the catalyst that the talking heads use to explain, well, this is why we're going down. And there's been plenty of times where we've consolidated and we've needed it, technically speaking, and then, CNBC will say, well, it's because of this, or maybe it's because of this, when in reality, my mindset is, as a technical analyst, there doesn't have to be a reason. We get extended in unsustainable moves, and it's just the way markets work. We have to see pullbacks on the way up, and there doesn't always have to be a fundamental reason for those pullbacks.
Right. At some point, just the technical sort of physics and mathematics of the market kicks in. How is this all affecting the cannabis sector for you?
Well, it's going to be key because it does definitely still have an impact, and we're seeing a whole bunch of red out there. It's not massive red in the sector, 1 to 4% across the board, but it is going to be a downside narrative that is only going to, we have the MJ sector that is a high risk sector, and people are not going to be looking to enter high risk sectors if they are not rock solid confident in the market as a whole. So honestly, I continue to look to the fall of 2020 for the MJ sector very patiently, because I know it's a long way away, but the biggest short-term catalyst that the sector could see, in my opinion, is either Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders getting the nomination. And every month that goes by, we're going to have more and more data with which the market is going to be able to price in what is the most likely scenario. So we're going to be looking to, in February, we have some primaries in Iowa and New Hampshire, and we know Bernie Sanders has been gaining a little bit. Again, regardless of any personal political opinions, if either Sanders or Warren wins the ticket for the Democrats and goes up against Trump, it's going to be bullish for the MJ sector. The higher percentage chance that one of them has, the better the sector will respond. And of course, if Biden starts coming out with some wins and some increasing numbers, then it's going to be bearish for the sector. So in my opinion, the market is going to have an impact, but the most important factor for me for the next year is going to be, what are we looking at heading into this election, and what are the results of that election likely to be?
Sure. Okay, well, let's take a look at the charts and see what we see.
So not many charts to be looking at today. The first is the S&P 500, and this is the level that I'm talking about. This is the virus fear dump low on the S&P 500, 322.66. And we had the high of the bounce, which was just a lower high. And here we are about to drop through to a lower low. Bigger picture, it's not a huge red flag. We're still in a weekly uptrend at this point, and it's just looking like some more prolonged consolidation may be coming. Of course, any prolonged consolidation is not ideal for the MJ sector because it's not positioned well for any market weakness. The bounce that we've seen over the past couple of months has not been significant, and we're going to see some downward pressure, in my opinion, on that bounce if we do see further market downside. So what we're looking for, as I talked about heading into election 2020, is it's going to be an interesting scenario because, in my opinion, if either Warren or Sanders were to win, let's just say if that was a possibility, the MJ sector would respond very bullish, in my opinion, and the market would respond bearish, more so bearish for Bernie than it would for Warren. But the bottom line is, big money doesn't really want either of them elected. They like the way things are going with what Trump is doing currently. So it will be an interesting scenario where, in my opinion, it'll almost be like the MJ sector is going to act as a safe haven sector in that market weakness, because I believe that the money that would flow into it on the hype of potential legalization would outweigh any downside market sentiment that we would see as big money leaves the market for the potential changes that may take place that would be less favorable for the bottom line profit on a lot of major companies. So key support level on SPY, if that breaks, it confirms we are in a daily downtrend at this point. Right now it is a double bottom at that level. Still a whole bunch of time left to trade today. And then looking at CGC, we had a nice bounce off of the low, and we are in a tightening daily range. We have to see a break of this range. Low of the dump, high of the bounce. Bulls have to form a higher low compared to 2134. So we're looking for that higher low compared to 2134. The only thing that the bulls are happy about is that we're not seeing increased bear volume on the way back down to that level. So I do believe that we're going to see something along these lines into early next week. Have to hold 2134 on any bounce. We'd look for a lower high compared to 2440, and then sometime perhaps around Tuesday or Wednesday, we will look for a break of this tightening range. That being said, if the S&P 500 breaks this double bottom and dumps today or Monday, that will obviously put some more downward pressure on CGC, in my opinion. So two key levels to be watching, one on the S&P 500, one on CGC, and we'll see how we break in the next couple of days.
Dan, that was an awesome contribution as usual. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thanks, James. See you next time.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. And so one of the things that we're seeing in the market today, the Patriot One, and I know we've got some Patriot One investors in our audience because Patriot One jumped by 12 cents a share today on the news that they won a $780,000 grant from Innovation Solutions Canada.
How much?
$780,000. Free money. That's pretty
That's
cool.
very impressive.
Yeah, so the stock jumped, trading right now at $1.54, touched a high of $1.60 today, and that
Where was it?
makes all you guys out there who are Patriot One investors pretty happy. I still have Patriot One shares, somewhere. I don't know where they are. Yeah, I got them. I think I have a warrant for. I think I've only got 50,000 or maybe 100,000. I don't know. Anyways, they're around somewhere. I saw the price jump, and I'm like, oh, where the hell did I put those shares? I don't know.
Rounding error.
Rounding error. Well, not today. Also, in the cannabis space, Adam Bierman's firing resulted in a 4-cent lift in the share price of MedMen. Well, that's what I thought you said.
I said there was a change in management.
Okay. So I should know that's true. They're not quite the same. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little research, and then we'll come back to that. But for now, let's have a chat about the options market and the FANG stocks. Joined now by Lance Ippolito, CEO of the Future of Trading. Lance, welcome.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
We're doing all right over here. Lance, we're looking at the FANG stocks here. The S&P is taking it on the chin a bit this week as the influence of the coronavirus's continued spread around the planet undermines confidence in markets. What's the opportunity for options traders in this type of environment?
So you always hear everyone talk about, if I can only buy Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Netflix at a discount, well, here's your discount. Actually, today, right now, you have the big FANG stocks. They're set to report earnings this week and next week. If you're wanting a dip to buy them, if you're wanting to play cheap out-the-money call options for a favorable risk versus reward, try to hit that 300, 400, 500% gain, you're getting this Monday dip with the virus spooking the markets right now to play it. So most traders, they don't want to buy the dip. They don't want to buy when there's fear in the markets. You have to look at the big picture. You got Big FANG. They're reporting earnings this week. If they beat, you're going to have a massive move higher in those FANG stocks. And really right now is the opportunity.
Right. Okay, so then what's the risk that the dip becomes a downturn that persists? And how do you protect yourself against that in the options universe?
Well, the beauty with options is you can only lose what your initial premium you pay for. So when you buy a call option, for example, let's say you buy a $1 call option. So that's representing $100 per one contract. That's the most money you can make. Unlike if you were to buy, let's say, Facebook stock, and after earnings it went down $20, then you're on the hook for that $20 move in each share of stock that you own. So you're getting a limited risk with the option strategy if, let's say, Facebook and these FANG stocks, they continue to dip even post earnings. Unlike the stock, you're left, hoping and wishing that the stock eventually trades back higher. And listen, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist who's going to cure the virus spreading over in China. So we could see more downside action. Again, the beauty of options, you're limiting your risk and you're actually maximizing your reward if they do trade higher.
Sure. How important is liquidity to the whole options equation?
The beauty with these FANG stocks is they trade mostly hundreds plus thousands of contracts a day. And a name like Facebook and Microsoft, they have penny-wide options. So liquidity, you're pretty much taken care of. You don't have to worry too much about liquidity. Unlike, let's say, a Google and Amazon, their spreads are a little bit wider. But again, they're going to trade so many options during earnings that you really don't have to worry about liquidity issues.
Sure. Okay, and so why are the FANG stocks so on fire? What's driving? They just seemed relentless in their march higher.
You look at, let's say you're a hedge fund manager, right? And the S&P is returning 30% a year or so. these hedge fund managers, they have to outperform the S&P, and the only way they're really going to outperform is A, where there's growth and where there's money flowing into. And really for the past 8 years, and I think as long as interest rates stay where they are and the Fed, stays okay, well, we'll put it there, you're going to continue to see fund managers continue to buy FANG stocks, and unless something drastic happens, or unless you think Google or Amazon somehow is going to slow down, you're going to continue probably to see every dip be bought like we have for the past 8 years.
Sure. The FANG stocks seem to be also responding a bit negatively to the coronavirus threat and scare. So is that something that just really presents an opportunity for somebody who wants to buy the dip, or is it potentially a longer-term threat? I mean, if you're only on the hook for the cost of your option itself and not for the downside, I guess at some point you either reverse your theory and play the short side, or do you just stay out of the market altogether and wait for a more discernible pattern?
That's a good question. It kind of reminds me of, remember the whole Ebola scare? I think that was, a number of years ago.
Yeah.
It was really short term. The S&P actually went 15% lower, and then 3 months after, it had a V-shaped bounce and was actually trading 25% higher. In my opinion, again, I'm not a medical doctor or scientist, but usually when we have negative news, money will come out of FANG stocks because they've ran up so far, so quickly that you'll have profit taking in those high beta names. And then as soon as you have, let's say for this virus, the worries and the cure is solved, and just we bypass it, you have money go right into those FANG stocks all over again, and that's what causes that bounce. Listen, if you're worried, if you're scared, you don't have to play. You don't have to be in the market. That's the beauty of trading. It's your money. You do what you want. But if you do think there's an opportunity, and historically these short-term dips on whether it be illnesses or diseases or fears in the market, they've seen higher prices shortly after.
Right. Okay. So then, what are some of the strategies that you can use to really capture a rebound in the stocks through an options strategy?
I want to go over two strategies, and they're both very simple to do, and as a trader, as an investor, anyone can do them. Number one is a premium selling strategy. So you're basically putting 50 bet. It's called a bull put credit spread. So unlike selling a naked put, where you can get assigned stock and that you do have a limited risk to the downside, you're actually buying an out the money put, selling it in the money put. So a neutral strategy on the, as long as it stays at price level by expiration, you're good. So you're basically risking $50 to make $50, and the stock doesn't even have to move higher. So it's a very conservative, neutral strategy that traders can do for a high probability percentage to really double their money. Another strategy, and this is more aggressive, is buying calls. The negative with buying calls is around an earnings event, or when there's fear in the market or uncertainty, option prices increase. So those call options are going to increase. But if you do have a V-shaped bounce or a sudden aggressive move higher in a stock, the call options are your best bet for the greatest return possible on a trade. So I'll go over a hypothetical situation. Facebook has earnings. Facebook stock right now is trading right around $2.15. The market makers are implying a $15 move higher or lower on earnings. So that's $200 to the downside, $230 to the upside. Let's say Facebook trades $250. They have a fantastic quarter. They beat analysts' expectations. You can buy those $230 calls for about $1. And if that stock goes to 250, pardon me, they're about $2. $2, if Facebook trades at 250, those calls are going to be worth $20. So that's 10x your money in a matter of weeks if Facebook has a positive earnings result.
Right. Okay. So then now, if I'm an individual investor, what is the best platform for a small trader in the option space to get their feet wet, so to speak?
There's so many options now. It's really a fantastic time to be a trader. I use TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim. It's very advanced. You can get every feature you ever asked for, especially if you're a big math fan, via option stats, probability analysis. It goes into all the Greeks and detail. It even has education, fantastic charts and scan features. It's a little more pricey. They just merged with Schwab, so they cut for stocks, it's free, but for options, it's still 65 cents. If you're more into swing trading and less, more conservative, not so aggressive, you're not trading hundreds of orders a day, I use Robinhood. They have a web-based platform, of course, mobile on your phone. It's completely free for trading options. And in my opinion, it's really not that bad. I've used pretty much every platform out there. I spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on commissions, and it's free. And I'm saving a ton of money using Robinhood on one of my accounts, and I like it. So you can't go wrong now. You have options, and that's always beautiful.
Right. Okay. In what general market conditions is trading options better than trying to catch a run to the upside or the downside in stocks?
So when you trade options, especially when you buy call options, betting a stock goes higher, when you buy put options, thinking a stock moves lower, you really only need some kind of volatility in the market, because volatility creates opportunity. And when you're trading directional, whether it be up or down, that's what you really want as an options trader. When the market's flat and not doing anything, it can be really boring because you don't have as many opportunities to move higher in a stock. So like right now, with the virus scare, and you do have the market moving, we gap lower today. We might gap higher 50 handles in the S&P tomorrow. If you're trading options, that's what you want because it presents opportunity to trade.
Right. All right. Well, that's a great introduction there, Lance. We're going to leave it there for now. We'll come back to you next week. Thanks very much for joining us today. So the other interesting thing, let's stick with the theme about MedMen.
Right.
So now all of the super voting shares are going to be canceled as soon as the dust clears here, and even Adam Bierman gets no parting gift. So this is, again, I want to point this out because 2 years ago, and well, forever, we've been warning investors about participating in companies governed by super voting structures. This is just one outcome, is that when things turn bad, the support of shareholders does not materialize because you have already sidelined them and you've indicated that you don't trust them to vote like an adult. So this is what happens. The run on the bank gets really hard. Next thing, I don't know how they convinced him to leave and to give up all of his super voting shares.
Yeah.
He gets no stock. He gets no upside in this thing until the stock of MedMen hits $10.
Maybe they have a picture of him doing something untoward.
I think that this company is now perfectly positioned to be bought out by, I would say, the likes of, maybe Peter. Not Aceto. Peter Aceto is not in the mix anymore.
Peter Cunningham.
No. Not Peter Cunningham. No. Green Growth Brands, Peter.
Ah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is my razor sharp mind at work. I can't remember.
You're razor sharp.
You know what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to go.
I got my own problems. Mine are very
I'm going to have
serious.
to go look him up.
You know what? It looks as though the marijuana space is under pressure.
Oh, geez, do you think so, Ed? What gave you that clue? Actually, well, if you want to look
Peter
at it.
who? Hovarth.
Peter Hovarth, thank you.
Jesus.
Yes, the famous brand guy from
Jesus
Brand.
just spoke to me from on high.
If they could still get their stock price together, they could make a run at MedMen. But I don't know.
Why do you want it? Why would you buy it?
Because they have some of the prime retail locations.
Do
throughout.
they?
Oh yeah, in New York and Los Angeles. They're on Santa Monica Boulevard. They're out near the airport. No, they've got some prime retail real estate there. This is the thing. It's a miracle that MedMen could not be turned into a profitable company, though I guess.
Well, management probably had their hand in the cookie jar too much.
Well, that's you got to be careful. You're treading a fine line between defamatory statements.
I don't want to get sued.
Exactly. I've got people threatening to sue me for defamatory statements.
I know,
But unfortunately, they're just going to have to follow through with that, and then we'll test those statements in a court of law now, won't we? Yeah.
Gabby Hayes. You remember me of Gabby Hayes?
There's a tangent. Who's Gabby Hayes?
You don't know who Gabby Hayes is?
I didn't know 2 minutes ago, and I still don't know.
Google him.
Google Gabby Hayes. What? While I'm having a show here?
Gabby.
Anyways, big hello. Yes, GGB. Peter Horvath is the guy I was thinking of, JG. Thank you for your comments. Shivet Keto Static Bafanisi is here. Yay! I haven't seen you in forever, honey. Welcome back. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We can be, we can ride the cannabis sector into the quiet zone where the volumes have dried up, but we will not stop our show.
Magic carpet ride.
Rumors of our death notwithstanding. Now, Ed, I want to comment on your hairdo today.
Yeah, it's you know what?
It's out of control.
You know what?
What's going on there?
I want to grow my hair longer.
Yeah.
Because it makes me look younger.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you look like you're.
I want to look like I'm 70.
Boy, that's gonna knock 10 years off your life.
Oh, Jesus.
You're looking like you're in a punk rock band.
Yeah, I'm a punker.
Yeah, you're a punker, all right. Yeah, so let's see. We still have Clint Sharples coming up for those in the chat room who are asking. No, Terry Booth will not be here because Terry Booth has indicated that the events that he wanted to come on the show and talk about have been delayed by a further week. We will continue to leave our door open for Terry when he's good and ready. Let's see what else is going on today. I wanted to take a quick look at some of the cannabis stocks on the large cap because I want to point out the fact that the great divide has now descended on the cannabis world, and we are now characterized by companies who still have a ton of dough, don't have a blown out structure so they can still use their stock as acquisition capital, and they have a share price that supports that entire idea. Though, of course, that's the wrong button. So we're looking at the large cap index. If you look closely here, you can see that I'm going to drop this down to the 5-day look, so that so it's been it's been losing some ground in the last couple of days, but that's thanks to the coronavirus. If we go out to the 3-month look, you can see that clearly. Hello, yes, there we go. Clearly, the trend is higher lows and higher highs, which, as I've learned from my good friend Dan McDermott, are the prerequisites for a trend to exist in one direction. But Canopy Growth dipped below $30 here at this point in the day, down $1.48 or almost 5%. Curaleaf is down to $9.26, lost 28 cents to 2.93%. Kronos Group shed another 37 cents, down 3.78%, and Aurora is down below 250 again at 247 a share. The only bright spot among the large caps in our index is Green Thumb Industries, trading at $12.65, up 4 cents or point.
It's up of a whopping 4 cents.
Well, I mean, but look at every single company on this index is down except for Green Thumb. So that makes me want to say, what has Green Thumb got going on today that is countering the trend? And let's take a look at that. They put out a press release yesterday indicating that they're going to open Rise Quincy, its 7th cannabis store in Illinois and the 41st in the nation. I think Green Thumb Industries is the sleeper that might just blow everybody out of the water at some point. Though, and don't hold me to this, I think it's governed by a super voting structure too.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, there's that super voting
Say it
structure.
ain't so.
Ah, Jesus.
Say it ain't so.
I'm going to quickly
Jesus.
look up Green Thumb Industries and see how fast I can figure out whether they're governed by a super voting structure.
You know what?
Profile Green Thumb Industries, it brought up the French version. While I am doing that, we are going to hear from Clint Sharples. Clint Sharples from Heritage Cannabis is going to give us an update on that company. Clint Sharples. Now. Right now.
Un, deux, trois, now.
Clint Sharples joins me now. Clint, welcome back.
James, great to be here.
So Clint, how's the 2020 treating Heritage Cannabis at this point?
Well, so far it's been busy. Yeah, we've been in full-scale production, getting product out the door. This launch of Cannabis 2.0 has been a big thing for a lot of companies such as ours who are we're starting out with putting out some vape pens for Kronos.
Oh, okay.
Both their Spinach and their Cove brand, and they'll be launching their Peace brand here shortly, and we'll be doing that for them too. So it's been a full-scale production of vape cartridges for pretty much the last 10 weeks.
Sure. And is that your preferred sort of MO going forward, is to provide white label production and packaging services for other LPs?
It's definitely our core to start with. We'll be producing vape. What we're really known for with the Pure Pharma division that we have is the ability to produce really high quality oils. So when you're looking at vape oils, they're the highest quality you can or you need in the industry. Because they're being lit on fire and you're sucking them into your lungs, you want to make sure that oil is really pure and really good, and this is what our guys are good at.
So no vitamin E acetate for you?
No.
Great. And so is the demand for vapes been negatively impacted by the negative press surrounding it last year?
Yes, very much so. Not necessarily with the people who are the consumer, it's with the provinces. And when you look at Alberta and Quebec, putting them temporarily on the shelf until more is known. And we're very confident that once the information is found out, if you take a look at the number of people who have been affected by this, it's down to almost nothing again. So something went awry, something went wrong in a few months in late summer that affected a lot of people, but it's not lasting. It wasn't prior and it's not now. So we imagine that once the provinces get that information and they understand it, both Alberta and Quebec will greenlight it. And that's 1/3 of Canada's population. So it'll be nice to get them back on stream. That makes for a material difference in what we're looking for our sales.
Sure. So what does the entire production footprint of Heritage Cannabis look like, production side and product side, at this point in 2020?
So between British Columbia and Ontario, we have combined a little bit north of 40,000 square feet, all dedicated to production. Right now we have 2 Vitalis Q90s in British Columbia, 2 out in Canacure and Fort Erie, with 3 more coming online in Canacure within the next month or so. 3. Most people know about the 2 because we announced it. We have added a 3rd one, and it will be brought onto production at the same time.
Sure. What's the throughput rate of a Q90?
Depends what you're making.
I see.
If you want to make tincture oil, it's a lot quicker. It depends what the biomass is going into it, but we have a general understanding that each Q90 can produce annually somewhere in the neighborhood of between 10 and 15 million of revenue, depending on what that product is going to be.
Wow. Okay, so that's substantial. If you've got 5 machines, that bodes well for 2020.
Well, you need all the downstream processing that happens after that. You need all the distillate machines. You need all the decarb ovens. You need everything that goes with it. So it's not just that machine.
Right.
And for that matter, you need a big vault to put in your biomass and a big vault to put in your finished product too.
Sure.
It takes up a lot of room.
And so do you have all that within the CANN Heritage footprint?
Yes, we do.
Wow,
Yeah,
fantastic.
we're producing.
Okay, so the big question that all cannabis companies are facing this year is, do you have enough cash to continue operations and get to profitability?
So definitively, yes. We currently have a strong balance sheet. We're sitting with, give or take, $8 million of cash sitting on our balance sheet with strong inventory and no debt. We do intend to change the debt situation. I believe now is the right time to take on debt. 2 years ago, obviously, it was not. People will try to build a big footprint that has no market today, whereas today now you can bring a varied products to market, and debt would help accelerate that. So we're not looking at taking a lot on, but we're taking a look at something that could help us accelerate that, and I'm looking for decent terms too. So I'm not doing anything on a convertible basis.
Sure. What's your long-term expectation for price pressure emanating from the black market?
Price pressure isn't coming from the black market. That's the one that sets the prices out there right now. What I'd like to see is a little bit more concerted effort on behalf of the provinces to price products that are in competition. Right now, the provinces are taking their pound of flesh, and they're not big shy about it. And that's being passed along to the consumer. Doesn't seem to be affecting too much right now. Sales are robust in the stores that exist. That's the problem. We need more stores. Ontario has to kick it up. I mean, 20 some odd stores for 15.5 billion people is ridiculous. So that needs to happen. Alberta's got a good model. BC's just starting to catch up. That needs to happen quickly within the next year if you're ever going to take a dent out of that black market.
Sure. Of the every dollar that you take in as revenue, what percentage of that is taken by provincial taxes?
For us in revenue, the only thing is the excise tax. It's because all of us in cannabis sell wholesale to the provinces. The provinces then take that and do their own markup. They have a goal of what they like to see, and not necessarily are they able to hit that goal all the time, but it's definitely not a small one.
Sure. And in terms of expanding your markets, what are the opportunities for you at this point in 2020?
We have great opportunity both in Canada with other LPs doing more products for them. We've already announced that we'll be doing a new vape pen project with James Wagner. They grow some wonderful cannabis that'll translate very well into a vape pen. And we'll have a couple of more coming up in the next 60 to 90 days that we'll be announcing, and have a variety of products on behalf of others. Also looking at bringing some of our own medical tinctures to market for ourselves. We have a product line ready to go. Need our sales license first, but we'll be looking at introducing that. Our business plan calls for it in the late spring, so we have some time. And on top of all of that, what we're really focusing on right now is the United States. We have orders that we can be filling right now for formulated product. We have quite a bit of demand. So in Oregon, we're pushing forward with our joint venture down there with Empower Clinics. And then the business that's being brought forward by Endocanna Health, working in conjunction with Empower Clinics and on their own, bringing plenty of opportunity for us down in the United States to really get going on a robust operation right up front.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Endocanna is the DNA test kit that gives the patient the ability to align their genetic predisposition to the right cannabis given their condition.
Yes.
And is that service something that has been extended to Canadians at this point, or is that still only in the U.S.?
We launched it in Canada in December.
Oh, okay.
And they've had a pretty decent uptake already of it. That's really good to see. What now we're being asked for is, okay, now that I have my results, what products are best for me? Where can I go and look for them? And some help needs to be done there, and we're building that up and working with others. They're not going to be on their own. There'll be some partnerships in there that will help people in the end find out the cannabinoid profiles and the products that work best for them. It's a pretty new industry, and we're finding things as they're coming along. Evidence is showing that certain things work better, and that seems to be in very, very high demand.
So it seems like the strategy this year so far is for the large LPs, instead of building out capacity of their own, is to make partnerships with smaller producers like Heritage and sort of take advantage of the existing capacity.
Yeah, I think what you'll see right now is almost a full halt on CapEx projects. We started slowing down our CapEx plans last summer. It was pretty easy to see that there was going to be a demand and a supply and demand issue coming up, and there'll be a cash crunch coming. And when you supply other LPs, you need to take their balance sheet into consideration as much as your own. So although, yeah, we're monitoring our own cash, I'm monitoring everyone's cash. There's only a few LPs out there who don't need to worry about it. The big ones that everyone knows has a lot of money in their bank. And it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. The pain in our industry isn't over. In fact, I hate to say it, but I think it's just beginning. You're going to see the real hard decisions being made on some you've already seen, that need to be really taking a hard look at how they're going to survive.
Sure. All right, Clint, that's a great update as usual. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Great. Always great to be here.
What? Thought that was over. Anyway, so Clint's still fighting a good fight there with Heritage Cannabis. You know, he's got an operation that's generating a lot of money, and he's focused on being a wholesale supplier. And I think that's probably good strategy, because the costs associated with driving a retail brand are quite a bit higher than the cost of just making a few wholesale transactions a year.
Right.
And maybe they're leaving a little bit of money on the table, but at least they're moving all of their product, which is more than we can say for some companies. There's another company, the Biome, that is moving all of its product and running out. And there are some companies that have dismal sales relative to the quantity. So we should actually just have like an online auction. Wait, there is one. It's called Cannabis, but it's not public yet. Anyway, so I had an excellent conversation with a gentleman who is the Media Relations Director of the National Cannabis Industry Association, and we had a great conversation about vapes. Hi, what happened? The screen froze there. Look at that. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, we're back. Morgan Fox will be with us in a moment. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the Green Thumb Industries super voting structure. I was somewhat alarmed to see that they have subordinate voting shares, multiple voting shares, and super voting shares. So,
How many shares do you need?
Well, I guess that's we know that those tend to be held by company founders who do not want to risk the fact that the shareholders are not going to support what they're doing. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Patriot One's backed off to $1.52 now at this hour. We're going to take a look at some of our CSE companies here in any second now, but wait. Yeah. Here we are. Large cap index. Okay, no, that's not what we wanted. We're going backwards here. CSE Index. This is the page we're after. CSE Index is down 17 points at this time. Lost 1%. But again, if you look at the trend from mid-December, it's clearly in a recovery. And the CSE Index is the home of all of the US MSOs except for Tilray. So these are ordered in order of by market cap. So Cureleaf being the largest lost 11 cents today, or 1.1%. Green Thumb Industries up 4 cents. They're on the large cap as well, despite having multiple voting shares and super voting shares. Obviously executing on a vision there. Trulieve Cannabis still in the $14 range, down 31 cents today, or 2%. Cresco Labs shed 4 cents to $7.97 since closing that deal with Origin House, down 0.5%. And Harvest Health and Recreation continues to give back all of its gains of the first couple of weeks of January here, down another 8 cents. Ianthus, remember Ianthus used to be a $5, $6 stock?
Yeah.
And now here it is, but $1.89. We never hear from Hadley anymore. I haven't heard anything about the company. Have you?
No.
I guess things are not all that great for them. Forefront Ventures. Now this used to be CanX, and there was a whole bunch of hullabaloo. Then Forefront Ventures was going to come in and take over. Clearly, they have not been able to take the market sentiment in a different direction than the rest of the market, and There's result down 204. Is our friend Morgan ready to go now? Oh, okay. Well,
Not ready?
Dan Bilzerian's Ignite Brands is also down 3 cents to $1.36.
No end in sight.
Yeah, it's just relentless bloodshed for the smaller companies. Well, today everything's down. I mean, it's really just a red day thanks to the coronavirus. Ed, have you? I heard you sneezing earlier.
Yeah, that's.
You had the coronavirus. Mind you, I saw you with a pint of Corona. So I wasn't sure which Corona.
If you want to get the coronavirus, drink lots of Corona.
When you were drinking lots of Corona, you can pound that Corona.
I can pound her back.
You can pound that Corona till the cows come home. That's great. That's great. So next week is the first week of February, and the
Tomorrow starts tomorrow, apparently.
coronavirus. I heard from one of my people on the ground in Wuhan that some apartment buildings have so many infected people in them that they have welded the doors shut to prevent residents of the building from leaving.
Come on.
Yeah. So I think that the news is going to eventually, like China's notorious for downplaying bad news. And so I think when the fullness of the story emerges, which I think will start to happen next week, I think we could wake up to another kind of world on Monday. Anyways, that's what I think.
Well, you know what? You got the S&P down here, almost 70 points or 60 points or whatever. It's big. It's big.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah. It looks like it wants to go lower. Like, you know what? There you go. There it is, right there.
Looking at the CSE Index, I've just reversed the order here, and these are the companies that have gone off the board. Origin House got absorbed by Cresco Labs, so that's kind of a win. ICC International Cannabis Corp. I think that got absorbed by another company as well. Quadrant Canatech, gone. International Cannabrands, gone. BrainGrid, down to a penny. You know those guys, don't you, Ed? BrainGrid.
Is it down to a penny?
Yeah, it's trading at a penny. Belgravia Capital, a penny. Preferred Dental Technologies, 1 cent. Rise Life Sciences, 1 cent. Dianamed Brands, 2 cents. Golden Leaf, 2 cents. Ionic Brands, 2 cents. You know what the common? You look at Mojave Jane, 2 cents.
These are players too.
These are what you call casualties. Like, these things are getting ready to become mining shells again by the looks of things.
Yeah.
But look at all these companies trading down here at 2 cents, 3 cents. Canada House Wellness Group, like all the companies that we basically warned investors against are now blowing up, and even some of the ones that we were invested in have blown up, like International Cannabrands. RavenQuest Biomed, former client, down to 4 cents a share. Boy, we couldn't help them no matter how hard we tried. And this is the thing, former client Halos down to 23 cents. And this is the deal, is that the market is being revalued. In 2020, what's going to happen is a lot of these companies are just going to disappear. They're going to file for bankruptcy, or they're going to be absorbed by other companies. But incrementally, throughout 2020 in Canada, there will be fewer and fewer cannabis cultivation licenses in the marketplace, which will result in less cannabis available in the legal system, which might have a beneficial effect on some of the larger cannabis players. So 2021, I think, is the next time we can plan to have a big cannabis market, but I don't think we're going to see it in 2020. I think the consolidation is going to continue, and the bifurcation, to use that hackneyed, overused, cliched term, is going to be consistent throughout the year.
Right.
It's a good time to look at mining stocks. Have you noticed that a lot of the gold companies are starting to do well?
Well, you know what? Gold's doing well, but copper's
Copper's in the doghouse.
getting kicked in the.
Dr. Copper is on his. He
Dr.
did too much of his
Copper's
own
on
medicine.
crutches.
Dr. Copper's getting beat. I guess our interview with Morgan Fox is going to happen next week now, because
Is that that time of day?
well, Donald says he's going to be ready in 2 more minutes, but that's the end of the show.
Jesus.
Anyways, I also can't really hear you, Donald, in my IFB. I don't know why, but there's no volume. I can hear you talking, but I can't hear what you're saying. So anyways, the National Cannabis Industrial Association, cutting to my screen here, put out this report, The Key to Consumer Safety, Displacing the Illicit Cannabis Market, Recommendations for Safe Vaping. Now, I'm going to scroll right through here to the back page so you can see who comprises the National Cannabis Industry Association. Where did it go? Where did that page go? Oh, man. I guess it was the second page. There. Okay, here's all the people in this. So you've got Andrew Klein, Greenbridge Corporate Counsel, Michael Cooper from Madison J Solutions, Chris Crane from Forefront Ventures is in there, Doug Fisher from Greenland. These are council contributors, interestingly enough. But so if you want to catch this report, you just go to cannabisindustry.org, and you will be able to download this report in its entirety. But right now, I'm going to talk to Morgan Cox about the report. Morgan Fox joins me now. He's a Director of Media Relations with the National Cannabis Industry Association. Morgan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Morgan, we're talking today about the illicit cannabis market recommendations for safe vaping, a report that your group put out. What is the essence of the concern and what is the essence of the solution?
Well, overall, we wanted to really highlight the fact that the vast majority of these products are coming from the illicit market and recommend ways that we can help displace that market, including creating easier pathways for licensure, eliminating local bans on retail establishments, lowering the barriers of entry and the financial burdens placed on legal regulated businesses, and finding non-criminal enforcement methods for businesses that continue to operate without licenses. But we also lay out a number of areas that we think that state regulators and producers should follow in order to prevent any sort of future outbreaks from happening in the legal market, as well as making sure that illicit market products don't find their way into the legal market supply chain.
I see. So is it safe to assume that vitamin E acetate is not the only culprit in the vape crisis that seems to be embracing some communities?
Well, that seems to be the largest proximate source, but there are several other possibilities that we go into the report, including the presence of heavy metals and other contaminants, the potential for vaporizer delivery devices overheating and inadvertently creating potentially harmful substances. So we address all of that, both the liquid formulation as well as the hardware.
Sure. You make quite an argument for the fact that heavy taxation of legal products is causing black market sources to thrive. To what extent would you say that the black market is still dominating retail customers' buying habits in cannabis products?
Well, it definitely varies from state to state, but it's definitely safe to assume that for a large portion of cannabis consumers, price is really the bottom line. And if legal businesses are unable to compete with those prices, consumers will seek out the illicit market, despite the fact that most cannabis consumers want to purchase legal, tested, and reliable products.
Sure, and it seems to me that the approach to enforcement, state by state, is really inconsistent, and that must have some impact on the ability of the black market to thrive in a cross-state sort of trade. Is that the case?
Well, enforcement has always been relatively arbitrary against the illicit market, even before legal markets started to arrive. And I think that that has been consistent across the board. But what we have seen is that in states that have decided to legalize cannabis, the legal market does take a significant chunk out of it. Again, that varies from state to state. But it's very difficult to be able to keep prices low and competitive when we have issues like inability to access banking services, extremely high federal tax rates because of the 280E tax code, and state and local taxes that are really far beyond what they should be for this industry and dwarf those placed on other industries.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about the National Cannabis Industry Association. When were you founded, and what is the prime sort of motivation behind your organization?
Well, the National Cannabis Industry Association was founded in 2010, and our goal is to create a fair business environment for cannabis businesses in legal states and to promote federal policies that not only treat these businesses fairly, but also cease to prevent states from opening up those markets, with our primary goal being to end cannabis prohibition and remove it from the schedule of controlled substances and have it regulated like other products through the FDA and the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau.
Sure, and I see that you're quite broadly represented across a good swath of the industry. I'm just looking at all of the national policy contributors here. So let me ask you this, Morgan, because it seems like you'd be in a great space to answer this question, and it is widely viewed as the next big macro catalyst in the cannabis space that will drive a recovery in cannabis valuations. When do we expect to see a federal deprohibition strategy implemented in the United States?
Well, I don't necessarily want to put an exact date on it, but I think that this year we're going to see at least some progress on the MORE Act, which would remove cannabis from the Schedule of Controlled Substances, as well as provide restorative justice measures for the communities that have been most harmed by prohibition and expunge federal cannabis criminal records. It's doubtful whether that will be able to make it all the way through the House and certainly not through the Senate in this session. But I think that we're looking at least some form of descheduling bill making it across the finish line sometime in the next 2 to 5 years.
Great, Morgan. I appreciate your contribution. It's a great update. We'll have you back soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
There's our show for another week. Thank you very much for watching. We love you all. We'll see you next week, Fridays at 3 p.m. Thank you. Goodbye.